Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into EV batteries today.
Always a hot topic, right?
Yeah, and we know you guys out there are looking for the best batteries for your electric 2- and 3-wheelers.
For sure. Reliability and power, that's got to be top of mind.
Absolutely. So today, we're looking at Xiaolu battery.
Yeah, okay.
And they're kind of new to the electric 2- and 3-wheeler scene, which might make some folks wonder.
Yeah, I could see that.
But they've actually got a lot of experience with battery tech in general.
Interesting.
So the question is, can they make that leap? Can they take that experience and really succeed in this specific market?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. And that's what we're going to be digging into today.
All right, let's do it.
I think it's a valid concern right off the bat. Like, is their experience the right kind of experience?
Right. Yeah, you got to think about that. I mean, a battery for a smartphone, that's totally different from what you need to power a vehicle.
So true. So what are we talking about here? What are some of the big differences that come to mind?
Well, for one thing, think about the power, just sheer power.
Yeah.
These vehicles, they're moving people, cargo, sometimes up hills, and that takes serious battery output.
Right.
Way more than scrolling through your phone.
Yeah. Totally different use case.
You think about a scooter going up a steep hill, the torque needed for that, that's not even on a smartphone battery's radar.
Makes sense. Okay, so we got more power needs, but I imagine there were safety considerations too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You go bigger with batteries, you got bigger safety challenges to think about.
Like what? What kinds of things?
Heat dissipation, for one.
Okay, yeah.
Damage in an accident, how do you prevent that? It all has to be engineered to a much higher standard when you're talking about a vehicle.
Right.
And then on top of all that, there's this whole world of regulations and performance standards just for EVs that a company like Xiaolu has to deal with.
Wow. Yeah. So much to consider.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it really paints a picture of why that direct experience in the 2- and 3-wheeler market might seem so important.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm also remembering what you mentioned earlier, that sometimes being new can be an advantage.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
How so? How does that work?
Well, think of it like this. A lot of the big players, they get stuck in their ways.
Okay.
They've been doing things a certain way for so long, but a newcomer, someone like Xiaolu, they might be able to shake things up a bit.
Oh, interesting.
They could have fresh ideas, new ways of manufacturing that they've learned from other markets, maybe even ways to save costs.
I see.
They could be like that tech startup, the one that comes in and disrupts a whole industry because they're not bogged down by the old ways of doing things.
I like that analogy. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. But I'm also looking at their website, and they talk about, custom fit power. But how much of that is just like marketing hype?
You're right to be skeptical. Websites can be all smoke and mirrors sometimes.
Exactly.
But I will say there are a few things on their website that suggest they might actually walk the walk.
Okay, like...
Well, they have this super detailed questionnaire.
I did see that, yeah.
It asks about things like, how much torque you need, what kind of range you're looking for, how long it takes to charge, even the conditions your vehicles will be operating in.
It was a lot more in-depth than I was expecting, honestly. More than what I've seen from other companies.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
But I got to ask, how much does this customization even matter in the end? Isn't it just making things more complicated?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And this is where things get really interesting, especially for someone like you building 2- and 3-wheelers. This level of customization makes me think that Xiaolu wants a real partnership, not just a quick sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that could be a big deal in a market where everyone's watching the bottom line,
Right.
By tailoring the battery to exactly what you need, they might be able to hit price points that you wouldn't get with a more generic battery. Or say you've got some pretty ambitious performance goals for your next scooter model.
Okay.
Maybe you want it to go farther on a single charge or accelerate faster. This level of customization could help you get there by really fine-tuning how the battery performs.
So it's not just about hitting a certain price. It's about getting the absolute most you can out of that battery to meet those specific needs.
Exactly. And that kind of back and forth collaboration to nail down the specs, you don't always see that in this industry.
Right. It makes me think about something else I noticed on their website, how much they emphasize quality and meeting those global standards.
Oh, yeah, that's huge, especially for someone in your shoes. I mean, imagine this.
Okay.
You've poured everything into this awesome new electric scooter design, but then the batteries start acting up.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Production gets delayed, there are safety risks, and what about your brand's reputation? It's a recipe for disaster.
No kidding. A reliable battery is like the bedrock. The whole thing is built on that.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And Xiaolu, they seem to really get that. When they list all those certifications on their site, it's not just showing off.
Right.
It's a sign that they're serious about quality, they want to be on the global stage, and that means meeting the highest standards out there.
You know, this might sound kind of silly, but I was genuinely surprised by how easy their website is to understand and how engaging it is.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. So many websites in this industry, it's like a wall of jargon and tech specs.
It's like they don't want you to understand it.
Exactly. Like they're speaking a whole other language. But Xiaolu, it's refreshingly different.
Yeah, it's clear, gets to the point, even has some personality.
I got a chuckle out of that line on their contact page. We're all ears.
Simple, but it says a lot.
It really does. They value clear communication, and that is so important when you're talking about partnerships in manufacturing.
Totally.
Think about it. Fewer headaches, problems get solved quicker, more trust, all because everyone's on the same page.
Makes a world of difference.
Especially when you're trying to get a complex product out the door. Yeah.
So, big picture here. We've got a company with experience. They're focused on customization. They care about quality, and they seem to get how important it is to communicate clearly.
Sounds like a pretty good package so far.
Yeah, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but they're starting to look like a real contender here. What do you think?
I'd say they're definitely worth looking into more closely, but like with any potential supplier, you got to do your homework.
For sure. A website is just a starting point. What else should our listeners be asking as they dig deeper?
You got to think about your own needs and what's most important to you. For example, when you go custom, that often means longer lead times.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Can your manufacturing timeline handle that?
Good point. Time is money, as they say.
Absolutely. And then think about order volumes. What if this new scooter takes off, demand goes through the roof? Can Xiaolu ramp up production fast enough to keep up with you?
That's something you don't want to find out too late.
Exactly. These are the questions you got to get answers to before you commit.
So don't be afraid to ask those tough questions early on. Get the details ironed out.
Couldn't agree more. And the good news is, Xiaolu makes it easy to do just that. Big Connect Us link, right there on their homepage. Use it. Start the conversation, get a feel for how they operate.
Perfect. So for our listeners who are interested, step one is head over to XaoluBattery.com, check out the site, and if you want those answers, click Connect Us, start that dialogue.
Now here's something to chew on based on what we've talked about today. It highlights an interesting shift that might be happening in the industry.
Oh, okay, I'm listening.
Xiaolu, the way they focus on customization, on close collaboration, it kind of suggests we're moving away from that old buy and sell way of doing things with battery suppliers.
Interesting, like they're more of a partner than just a vendor.
Exactly. And that's worth noticing, not just for Xiaolu, but for other suppliers too. Is this a trend we're going to see more of, or is this just something special that Xiaolu does?
That's a great question for everyone out there to think about.
And as you do your research, remember this. Sometimes that perfect fit comes from someone new, shaking things up, challenging the way things have always been done.
It's like you got to think outside the box sometimes, right? You never know what you'll find.
That's it. And in EVs, things move so fast, those hidden gems, they might be the ones really pushing the whole industry forward.
Makes you wonder. Okay, so as we wrap up looking at Xiaolu battery, what's the big takeaway here for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that even though Xiaolu's new to the 2- and 3-wheeler market, their experience in other battery areas that focus on custom solutions, the quality they're talking about, it all adds up to a company worth taking seriously.
But like we said, got to go deeper than just the website.
Right. Talk to them, ask the tough questions, lead times, how much they can produce, anything that matters to you. See if they walk the walk.
And maybe, just maybe, thinking about Xiaolu can get us all thinking differently about partnerships. Like, is it time to move past that old buy and sell mentality? Should we be looking for people who are really in it with us for the long haul?
That's a good question. And I think the answer is going to be different for everyone, but it's something worth thinking about for sure.
Definitely. Well, we'll leave it there for our listeners. Head over to XaoluBattery.com, do your research, see if Xiaolu battery is what you've been waiting for.
And don't forget, things change fast with EV batteries. Always be on the lookout for the companies that are pushing the limits, changing the game. You never know where the next big thing will come from.
So true. Well, that's it for this deep dive. Hope you all learned something and maybe even got a little inspired.
Until next time, keep those wheels turning and stay curious.
Catch you in the next deep dive.